life for you by trying to sell you on the good points of it and tell you that your life is going to be all okay. Because the reality is, from where you're standing, you have absolutely no proof that that is true. I'm also not going to be like every other person and tell you that you have to live. Why? Because I'm so scared of losing you and I need you around, and so I'm going to talk to you from that self-centered standpoint. Instead, I'm going to get really, really real with you. Right now, you do not have proof the Earth is anything but suffering, and you have no reason to believe that it will get better. And you're right to feel this way. You aren't wrong about your perspective. You know what else no one will tell you? Anyone in your circumstance would have probably killed themselves already. There is nothing wrong with you for feeling this way. Right now, you're in more pain than you can cope with. Suicide is nothing more than pain exceeding your pain-coping resources. A lot of what's making you want to kill yourself right now is the belief that on top of feeling so much despair, there is something wrong with you for feeling that despair. This causes you to feel more despair and ultimately turn on yourself. But from the standpoint of a spiritual teacher, I'm going to tell you that there is nothing wrong with you at all. Anyone in your circumstance, in your experience, would feel exactly this same way. Chances are, if you even clicked on this video, even from inside this isolated torture chamber that you're living your life inside, there's an infinitesimal speck inside of you that actually wants life instead of death. So what I need from you is not even to want to live. You don't need to feel that way right now. What I need you to do is to try what I'm going to suggest in this video instead of trying to commit suicide at this moment. You are currently in a crisis or an emergency peak of emotional pain. So here's what I want you to try. Number 1, you have to know that you can always kill yourself tomorrow. You can always kill yourself in 5 minutes, in fact. Now, what does this do for us when we actually acknowledge that this is the case? It makes it so that suicide can be our safety net or our reset button that's always available to us. Why is that important? It means we can set suicide aside, because it's always an option, long enough to focus on the 5 minutes that's right in front of our face, or the hour or the day that's right in front of our face. I want you to live with this in mind. I can always commit suicide tomorrow, so what can I do with today? Or if tomorrow seems too large of a timeline, make it, I can always kill myself in an hour. So knowing that, what can I do with this hour? Then use that hour or that day to focus completely and totally on quite literally anything that makes you feel a tiny bit of relief. Know that your body responds to pain in a way that makes pain feel 2 specific ways. The first is that you're alone in that pain, that nobody else could possibly be feeling the way that you're feeling. That kind of isolation. 2, that it will never, ever end. Neither is true. There are people on this planet who are going through exactly what you're going through. I'm a perfect example of one such person. But if you don't believe me, I want you to just do something really quick for me. I want you to look down below this video at the amount of views on this particular video. Did you create every one of those views? Or is it quite possible that there are other people who are concerned with this exact issue and who are feeling suicidal right now? Maybe they're on the opposite side of the world. The point is, they exist. In your life, what you've learned is that happiness is transient. It always goes after it comes. But what your pain is doing to you at this moment is it's convincing you that the pain is never going to go away. Pain functions just like happiness. It's every bit as transient. Even though it has a tendency to convince you that life's always going to be this painful when it's there, the reality is, it's temporary. If you didn't do anything at all about it, this feeling would eventually pass on its own. Consider that your thoughts and feelings come and go like messages from somewhere deep within the universe, but you do not have to believe them. They may seem true, but just because something seems true does not mean that it is. Just ask a magician. You cannot know 100% that this pain will never end, and you cannot know beyond a shadow of a doubt that no one else experiences this exact same thing. So, you can believe these painful thoughts are true, but you cannot know they are. Your pain may just be creating an illusion. 3. Right now you feel as if you're trapped inside of a torture chamber. Everything inside of you is screaming for your attention. That's what pain does. Pain is designed to cry for attention, so we will focus upon it. Why? Because it's a red flag telling us that there's a problem. So what do we need to do? We need to expose the pain within us to the light of consciousness. Right now you feel like you're drowning in a vat of poison. What you have to do is to release that poison. You have to express the way you feel in any way that calls to you. Some people prefer to sing. Some people prefer to yell it out. For me, my favorite method for dealing with this is writing. You have to become conscious of your own pain and understand it. Chances are you can see other people smile and seem happy, but it feels like you can't even touch that happiness. You feel an unbearable isolation. So first, express the hell out of these emotions. Expose what's going on to the light of your own consciousness and then to other people's consciousness. Express how you feel and why you feel that way. Imagine you're emotionally vomiting. 4. If you're suicidal, there's an unmet need that you're currently unaware of, and that is for other people to see your pain. This is why it is so incredibly critical to involve other people in that particular process. In fact, a huge majority of why we want to commit suicide is so that people will finally fucking get how much pain we're in. Express what you've discovered in the previous step to someone else, but you've got to choose wisely. You may have a lot of people in your life right now who are so afraid of pain themselves that they will only enhance the feeling of loneliness and make matters worse. They'll make you feel like something genuinely is wrong with you. And yet again, it isn't. So involve someone who is capable of being fully, unconditionally present with your pain. If you feel like you don't want to use someone who is in your life already, know that I have personally trained a group of facilitators who are experts in doing just this. You can subscribe to my newsletter. The link is below this video in the description. At the bottom of each newsletter, I have a list of these facilitators. You can look through the list and let yourself be drawn to whichever one resonates with you the most and reach out to them. Alternatively, you can reach out for someone's presence on befrienders.org, which is an international organization that provides support for anyone who is suicidal, no matter your time zone. 5. Right now you feel trapped in a state of complete powerless hopelessness. In other words, you feel like you're in an intolerable situation where there's absolutely no solution. Anyone who feels like that would obviously want to kill themselves. I mean, who the hell wants to stick around for a life that feels as if it's completely hopeless? But what I want you to realize is that hopelessness, or this feeling of complete despair, functions a lot like a spider web. The more you try to resist it and get out of it, the more deeply entangled you become. So what does that mean? It means right now, I don't want you to focus on anything positive. Don't you dare write a single affirmation. What I want you to do is just stop where you are, right in your tracks. 6, I want you to lay down on the floor, and I mean completely let yourself collapse. What is suicide? It's giving up completely on life. So let yourself physically give up on life by falling on the floor. When you're on the floor, I want you to imagine dying. Now here's the thing. You've been loosely and mostly subconsciously toying with the idea of suicide. You've been thinking about it, but not really consciously. This time what I'm going to encourage you to do is to consciously imagine committing suicide. This is different than suicidal ideation, which is just a subconscious reaction to an emotional state. Imagine how you want to kill yourself and where you want to kill yourself. Imagine every grisly detail. Imagine who is there, how they will react. Become aware of the impact you want it to have on other people and why you want your suicide to have that impact. Imagine watching every detail of your funeral and what happens with your body. Imagine watching people grieve and moving on with their life. Imagine you watching all of it. Then imagine yourself going back to source, becoming part of universal mind, or what you call God again. Imagine that now you have the relief you were seeking. You're not in pain anymore. You're watching Earth from that removed viewpoint, that you left it all behind. You're just objectively viewing the madness down here on Earth. Let yourself imagine and feel that sense of peace for as long as you can. And when your mind begins to fidget in that peace, I want you to ask yourself this question. Now what? I want you to pause this video right here. You have to do this exercise before you resume the rest of this video, if anything that is to come is to make sense. So pause this video now, do this process, and when you're done, turn the video back on. What you have found out as a result of doing this process is that there is nowhere to go from the still peacefulness that is death. Death is an endedness to the expansion. And what do we find? When we're in that still, peaceful endedness, there is nowhere to go but back to life. So what is your soul urge going to be? To come back. This is, in fact, the very motivation which causes souls to reincarnate. Death is nothing more than a